All right, all right. Grace, mercy, and peace from him who is and was and is to come very soon, I'm certain. This is Rogue Diabetic, and welcome to the Digital Wilderness. All right, so the last time I did an update on these midterm elections, on the last American election, because Jesus is coming back to cancel the 2024 elections. He's coming back days before to storm the field at Armageddon, and he will cancel the 2024 elections and rule all nations with a rod of iron. So the last time I gave you guys an update, my prediction on the Senate was 48. It was 48-52 for the Dems. Now, as I was saying in the last one, and really this AP graphic is probably like just as good as the Fox graphic, so we'll skip all that and we'll just look at the AP and just ignore everybody else, because once the AP has called these races, they're not going to they're not gonna change. Okay. I mean, this is how these races will get certified. Basically, all the races are called. Okay, even this one is called. There's going to be a runoff in Alaska between two Republicans. So in Alaska, we're going to that's going to give us 49. Okay, now in and like I said, I predicted the final split would be 52-48. Okay, despite the expectations that the media and the pundits created about a red wave, there was instead a blue wave. Okay, so this is going to make the 49th GOP seat. Okay, this seat right here, Ron Johnson, I predicted that would end up flipping. It was showing red. It was showing maroon. Ron Johnson was leading. I said it would flip to Mandela Barnes overnight on the night of the election. It did not. And I think Wednesday, sometime in the afternoon, maybe they called the race. So that's 49 for the GOP. Arizona, as I predicted, stayed with Mark Kelly. Okay, now they're only at 88% reporting, and that's still kind of an interesting sub-story. But it's not like why they're just at 88% on this many days out from the election. But this is gonna hold for Kelly, and they've and now they've called it. And in any attempts to challenge this election, even though there was a ton of even more irregularities than there were 2 and 4 years ago in Arizona. And the last time I voted in a midterm, I voted in Arizona, and it was already getting goofy there. It was already getting goofier there than it was in other places. But let's be frank. I mean, it's like these elections are rigged. The outcome of these elections are predetermined, and they have been for quite some time, maybe forever. So this is gonna stay. In the 12% of remaining. Oh, and look, they got the 88. So, but in the 12% of remaining vote that's left to count, which is 2 6s, 6 plus 6 is 12. But anyway, there's not going to be enough votes there for this Blake Masters guy to make up a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, almost a 6-point lead. I mean, this really isn't even close anymore. Unless it was a Democrat and there were only inner city precincts left to count. That's not what's going on. So the only thing left to count out there is Republican. Is like, well, not so much. The only thing left out there to count is early vote, because theoretically all the votes that are cast day of get cast at the precincts, and they're counted. They're counted first, And then after the precincts are done counting, they start counting these votes that, and it's gotten way more messy and confusing. But there's not six. With 12% left, he would have to get almost the rest of the votes, almost like 90% of them, and that's not going to happen. Okay. Not in a real world, and definitely not in the fake rigged election world. Okay, then they're gonna and then in my last video, Catherine Cortez Masto was leading Adam Laxalt. Now the interesting thing about this is they actually flipped this to Adam Laxalt. He was leading for a time. And it was getting closer. It was like he was starting to pull away, and then it started to get closer and closer, tighter and tighter and tighter again. And now, as soon as she gets ahead by less than 1%, they claim 98% reporting now. They call it for her, so that this one's done too. Okay, and just remember, Angus King and Bernie Sanders are the independents that hold these two seats. These other parties have 2 seats, and those guys are Democrats. Okay, they're independent in name only. They caucus with the Democrats. So the Democrats got this. It's over. Okay, and not only that, Raphael Warnock. Okay, so this is something that I was like, I forgot about the runoffs in Georgia. And before I explain that, we'll talk about this. This is 2 Republicans are going to run off. So this is going to be a red, and so that's going to be 49. There's a runoff in Georgia that I forgot about in my last video. But it's going to go to Raphael. So I said in my last video, I said by the time the people of Georgia get up, when they went because Herschel Walker was leading when most Georgians were going to bed. So Raphael Warnock, so I said that when people woke up in the morning, Raphael Warnock was going to be their senator. Okay, so he's not. Okay, or that's not that didn't happen. Okay, there still has to be a runoff, but it's fait accompli. It's gonna be the final. After this runoff, there's gonna be 51 Democrats or independents, the caucus with the Democrats, a total of 51 senators that are either Democrat or independents that caucus with the Democrats, giving them a 51 seat majority. Okay, so it's Katie bar the door. I talked to a friend of mine earlier today, and his wife's name is Dawn, so it's Dawn bar the door for him. It's whatever your wife's name, tell her to bar the door. Okay, because this is what's going to happen. So, but before I tell you what's going to happen, what happens next, this is I think when we looked at this last time, we were at 189. Okay, we were at 187 to 152. The ABC had it up to 207 or 208, something like that. But as you can see, the Republicans have only picked up 24 more seats, and the Democrats have picked up 50. Okay, now there's 21 seats left. Okay, so check this out. This is my final call on that. This is this is my final call. And I won't do another one of these videos until we've got final numbers. But my prediction is going to be the GOP is going to end up with 212. Okay, that's two sixes. And the Democrats are going to end up with 223, which is the backwards 322. Or you could also think of it as 2 sixes, right? They like their the 322 is the skull and bones. And 212, anything that you can extrapolate out. Anytime you see a 23, that's actually a 6. But if you see like 212 is 2 times 1 plus 2, which is 6. Watch that happen. Okay. Now, regardless, now the numerology aside, because maybe you're not into that, or maybe you are, or maybe you're not. And I mean, even if you are, sometimes people see things maybe that really isn't there. But what I'm like 99.9% certain of is that the GOP is not going to get to 218, because that's what you need for the majority. And that by early next week, the Democrats are going to be in lock and are going to have this lockdown. And once the AP calls it, you can't like, then you're an election denier if you question it. So there it is, you guys. The blue wave. I was one off on the Senate on my night of prediction. Okay, they did keep Wisconsin with the Republicans. But Arizona went red, or went blue. Nevada went blue. Georgia will go blue. And even if I'm wrong on that, then you're talking about there's still theoretically a possibility that we could end up with some sort of divided government, and they could work with that. They could still spring the trap that way. They could still move. They still have the moves left to deal with either scenario. But I personally think they're going to give both chambers to the Democrats just to rub it in our faces. Okay. And to try to trigger some sort of violence, or to use it as an occasion to stage some sort of violence, like a hammer attack on, the speaker's wife, or the speaker's husband, or whatever. Okay, like they did at the Republican softball practice, or at Paul Pelosi's house, something like that, where they have a fake shooting, a fake protest that turns into a fake riot, a hammer attack at a private residence that apparently didn't have an alarm or fucking security cameras. Okay, and this is game, shit, set, match. Now, regardless of which way they go with this is the next move. The next move is to digitize the dollar. And so take a look at my video with Mike Flood, congressman, 1st District congressman from Nebraska, who did win re-election, promised a digital dollar. Okay, and continued funding for Ukraine, for the war in Ukraine, and continue to stand with Ukraine. And again, Vladimir Putin we gotta stop Vladimir Putin. Okay. So they're gonna continue to drive that in play, and continued sanctions too. So they're gonna continue to use that to drive this hyperinflation that we're seeing. And it could get worse and worse. Okay. Also, if you're paying attention to the headlines and how they're shaping the narrative with those, they've got this triple demic. The RSV, the something virus, right? The flu and COVID. So they're already conditioning people to expect this, wave of death, or this wave of sickness and death this winter. So now that they're done distracting people with that, they're going to bring that back out. Okay. They're going to digitize the dollar. And that'll clear the way. That'll clear the way for all the way the mark. Because once they digitize the dollar, they can do exactly what China does. China has a fully digitized dollar, and they have a social credit score. Okay, and there's nothing stopping the banks in the United States from abusing that in the same way, the banks and the government, from abusing that in the same way that they've abused it in China. Okay, there's nothing, there's no, there's that they shut Kanye's bank account off because because he made a T-shirt that they didn't like, or they said they did. Okay, so if you don't take the mark, they're gonna shut your bank account. They're gonna be able to shut your bank account off if they digitize the dollar, which they almost certainly will, regardless of how this pans out. But I still say the GOP doesn't get its 218 majority that they were conditioning people to expect. Okay. Now another thing is if they give the Senate to the Democrats, and this is another reason why I think that they're gonna give them narrow control of both houses. They can get rid of the filibuster, which means they can codify into law late term abortion up to the 36th week, up to the day that baby's supposed to be delivered. Okay, but not only can and that's not so important. That's kind of more of just a side circus issue. But more importantly than that, they can pack the court. And if they can put if they put, you know, 4 more justices on the court and have them be these hyper left wing, really but kind of more like fascists. Okay, because it was the 3 quote unquote liberal justices that were like all the way, for the mark of the beast mandates, for mandating the mark of the beast. Now the Republicans were less so for that. But all they have to do now is pack the court. The Republicans can't stop them from doing it. Biden can put in whoever he wants. And whoever he wants will almost certainly, all of them will vote to uphold mandates for the mark of the beast. And they'll use the digital currency. And even if they don't, they'll use the digital currency as their mechanism to cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. And that no man may buy or sell, save he who has the mark of the beast of the number of his name. So I love you guys. Okay, Jesus is the only one that can save you now. This is over. Okay, but that's the good news. Okay, this place isn't that great anyway. It was never that great. Okay, Trump isn't going to save America. That's not even his job. His job is to make everybody hate us so much so that in the end they destroy the horror that rides the beast. And but Jesus comes back and he puts a stop to all of this. So if you stay faithful to him until the end, then you get to live and reign with him for 1,000 years. Okay, beg for his forgiveness and be prepared to lay down your life in the same way that he laid down his. So when they come for you to take you to prison and then ultimately to the guillotine, laugh at him and say, go ahead, that's fine. Because this world and this country are ridiculous and stupid. And I'd much rather be with Jesus than to be here anymore. So, like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'm out.